Welcome back, Lorcana players, it's Poisonous. Today we're dropping a new video. It's a Robin Hood Sharpshooter video. It's a red-green deck that uses a bunch of different actions and songs to discard your opponent, get a lot of value off the actions, and use some other interactions to kind of control the board and win the game. I've loved the Robin Hood Sharpshooter card since it came out, but it's been hard to make a fully viable deck for it. I think that there are some new tools that we got with set 8 that do make this deck interesting and something to consider, especially for like a 3-deck format type matchup. But I think this deck is competitive into some of the current meta decks as well. As always, thanks for checking out the video. You know, we're on a quest to 1,000 subscribers. At the time of releasing this video, we're at like 870 subscribers. So I'd really appreciate it if you would support the channel, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment on my videos. It all makes a big difference. We're also streaming on Twitch throughout the week now. So if you're into that, the VODs get uploaded to the YouTube channel, or you can follow the link in the description to hit up Twitch and see my channel there. So without further ado, here's the deck list for the Robin Hood Sharkshooter deck. So for 1-drops, we're only running the little Diablo. It's the shift line for the big Diablo. We don't really have space for other 1-drops, so a lot of times you'll do nothing but ink on turn 1, which isn't that bad. On turn 2, we have 2 options, either Ursula or the Mulan. Turn 3, we ideally want to get Prince John down here, or Diablo if you weren't able to shift from turn 1. For 4-drops, we're running Goofy. He's an excellent way to challenge and try and get control of the board against a more aggressive deck. He gains lore as well, so he's something that your opponent usually can't ignore. And then we have the namesake of the deck, the Robin Hood Sharpshooter. He's our ideal turn 4 play, especially if you're going up against a color where they don't have an easy way to remove him. He can start getting us value right away. We're running 2 copies of Maui, Hero to All, just as a way to fight locations and fight back against the opponent's board. We're running 4 copies of Half Shark because we're running such an action-heavy deck. The Half Shark can really do well here, and it's something that your opponent can't ignore and can kind of keep your opponent's characters in check, because they don't want him to challenge it and bring back some of our annoying actions. We're also running 2 copies of Mulan Elite Archer. She's another way to get board clear by shifting on the smaller Mulan and then challenging and removing up to 3 different characters. It feels really good. For our action package, we are running a lot of actions. We're running 25. We're running 1 copy of Fan the Flames, 4 copies of the new action Undermine, 3 copies of Hypnotize, 3 copies of Wrong Lever, which is another new addition for set 8, 3 copies of Brawl, 1 Dragonfire, 4 Sudden Chill, and 4 We Don't Talk About Bruno. And we have 2 copies of A Pirate's Life to slow your opponent down or to pull us over the finish line when we need it. It's a 6-cost action, and Robin can play 6-cost actions for free, so it's kind of our greediest action, but it comes in handy in certain matchups for sure. So that's the deck list. Let's break down the important interactions of this deck. So let's start with the opening lines for this deck. It's pretty straightforward. On turn 1, our only option is the 1-drop Diablo. On turn 2, we can play Mulan or Ursula. The Ursula, I think, is favored into song-heavy decks, so if you know you're playing against Steel Song or you're playing against Discard, then playing the Ursula early to try and pick those songs does make a big difference. But in most decks, I think that playing Mulan on turn 2 is better, because the idea that you can play an action at any point and she will be strong enough to challenge and trade or kill characters that your opponent has will sometimes stop them from questing, and it sets up the threat of the shift line to the big Mulan. So I like the Mulan on 2, but against like Steel Song, I think it makes sense to have the Ursula out instead. If you played turn 1 Diablo, obviously the turn 2 shift is ideal. It's not as heavy a requirement as it is in some decks. This deck seems to do pretty fine even if you don't get the Diablo down. The extra card draw is good, and he also serves as like removal bait. So they'll spend the removal on him, which makes it Robin Hood more likely to survive. Turn 3, the ideal play here is Prince John. We have like 15 discard based cards in our deck, so getting him down early to get your draw engine online and get that extra value off of your chills and your undermines and Brunos and everything that comes later is really important. I think that overall it's probably better to get him down on 3 than a Diablo. Depending on the situation, it could be different, but I would say generally turn 3, Prince John is the way to go. And then turn 4, we want to get our Sharpshooter down. As soon as we can start questing with him and getting those free actions, it can make a big difference in the game. In aggro decks, the Robin Hood can really cripple them if they're not able to quickly remove him after he's exerted as well. That's the idea with the opening. For our draw package, the deck has 2 different options for draw. That is Diablo. Obviously, he's a target for removal, but he's really powerful. When he's not removed, he gets you an extra card every turn or more if the opponent starts drawing cards. And then our other draw engine is Prince John. Because we're relying on discard, we need to get our Prince John down so we can start refilling our hand. So we have 4 different options in our discard package. First one is Sudden Chill, which is really ideal because it's a song. You go turn 2 Ursula, turn 3 Prince John, Ursula sings Sudden Chill. You discard and draw a card, which is really strong. We have Undermine, which is new. It's an action. The opposing player discards a card, but we also get to give a character +2 attack. This can be really useful, especially if you have the Mulan down. You give her 2 attack, she also gains 2 attack for her ability, and suddenly she's a 2 cost that has 5 strength and can take out some big characters. You can also have a little bit of fun with this because it says chosen character gets +2 strength. The opponent has an illusion character like Iago down. You could select him and it will banish him, which is really kind of a funny interaction and it gives you extra value with this card. But the fact that it's a 2 cost discard and you get to do the strength, it's kind of somewhere between Hypnotize and Sudden Chill in terms of value, and it's only available to red-green, and it's part of what makes this deck a lot more consistent with the discard, and the added strength is really great with characters like Goofy as well. We have Hypnotize. The Hypnotize is probably the weakest discard option. However, the nice thing about it is that when you quest with Robin Hood and he's looking at 4 actions and your opponent doesn't always have a hand left and all you get are discard options, the nice thing about Hypnotize is that it draws a card. So it's always a good choice with the Robin Hood to get it there, and it just gives you more discard options in the deck. And then we don't talk about Bruno, is like half removal, half discard, but it's really great. It's also a song, so it can be sung by characters like Maui, Hero to All, and Half Shark. It also can be top decked with the Robin Hood, and I really enjoy, bouncing their best character off the board with Robin Hood, and then suddenly they don't have a way to take Robin Hood out with the characters that are left sometimes, which feels pretty good. And it gives you a trigger for Prince John, as well as removing a character from the board or hand. And obviously, if your opponent doesn't have any cards in hand, then it's basically a removal plus a card draw if you have a Prince John down. The next interaction I want to talk about is with Fan the Flames and Maui Half Shark. This is something that I used as a combo in a video I did on Red Steel 2 sets ago, but I think that it's worth keeping at least 1 copy of Fan the Flames in the deck to ready your characters and enable the Half Shark board wipe combo. The fun thing is with Fan the Flames, Maui challenges, he brings an action back, so if Fan the Flames is in your discard or in your hand, you pay 1, you ready Maui. He challenges again, you bring back the Fan the Flames, you ready him, he challenges again. Depending on the strength of the characters you're going into, you can remove 2, 3, 4 characters off the opponent's board, and every time you play Fan the Flames, you're gaining 1 lore with Maui. So it feels really good to pull this little combo off. And when the opponent's way ahead on board, it can be a nice way to help you catch up. So it's a fun interaction, something that your opponent won't necessarily see coming. The Fan the Flames also useful for readying other characters and challenging again, or if you quest with Robin Hood and it's the only action there, at least you can ready Robin Hood again, maybe protecting him for another turn. But it's a fun interaction and something that I'd recommend using in the deck. It is cuttable if you want to put something else in, but it gives you a nice little backup plan. I've also used it to ready Super Goof and gain extra lore, and then play it again after retrieving it with Maui, and then challenging again with the Super Goof to gain more lore. Sometimes you just need it to close out the game, so it works pretty well for that. You can also pair it up with the Mulan. You're swinging into 1 character and hitting 2 more. If they have a really wide board, you could use Fan the Flames and do it a second time and hit 3 more characters. So it's got some versatility. I think it's worth keeping in as a one of. The next interaction that I want to highlight is with the 2 Mulan cards. So the first one, Mulan, Enemy of Entanglement. Her ability says whenever you play an action, this character gains +2 strength this turn. We play a lot of actions. Some actions will also give her more strength, like Undermine. So playing that, your opponent discards, you gain +2 for her ability and +2 for the action. One important thing that I want to kind of highlight here is that her action gaining strength effect is something that stacks on her character. And we know that when you shift a character, any statuses that affect the previous, the unshifted card will carry over to the shifted card. So if you have Robin Hood Quest and he plays an action and Mulan gains 2, she becomes a 3/3. When you shift Mulan, the Elite Archer will also have the added strength that the Enemy of Entanglement had. So the Mulan Elite Archer already gained strength when shifted. So she's got 2 abilities. One says when you play this character, if you shift to play her, she gets +3 this turn. And during your turn, whenever this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, deal the same amount of damage to up to 2 other chosen characters. So if you play an action or sing a song with another character, your little Mulan gains +2. You shift Mulan, she gains +3 for that. She retains the +2 from the other Mulan, and she's actually a 7/6. And, if you need to do a lot of damage, stacking up actions before you do the shift to carry over to the big Mulan is something that you have as kind of a hidden combo in your back pocket. It's not always immediately obvious to people that this interaction would work this way. The thing is that if you shift Mulan first and then you play actions after, but before challenging, you're not going to get the buff because the little Mulan has to be active on the board for the shift to carry over the plus strength from the actions. A lot of times 5 strength is enough, because when you shift and she gets the +3, 5 is probably enough to kill most things. But there are situations where you might want to have more damage available. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's a kind of a funny interaction and something that can catch your opponent off guard when they don't respect the Mulan shift. The last interaction I want to talk about with this deck, and this one is obviously the most important and most complicated, is the Robin Hood Sharpshooter sequencing. The way that you sequence your turns once you have a Sharpshooter down can make a big difference in the outcome of what happens. It really depends on the current board state, how many cards you have in hand, what cards your opponent has in hand. If you have characters that you want to play before you quest with him, you have cards that you want to play before you quest, or if you want to wait till after and see what happens. It's pretty variable, but it requires thinking through your turn carefully. So I would emphasize that you should slow down once you have Robin Hood on the board and think about what cards you need him to hit and what cards he's likely to hit. We have 25 actions. The thing is that 15 of them are discard actions. That means that there's a strong chance that the actions that you're going to see are discard based actions, and cards like Sudden Chill don't do anything if your opponent doesn't have any cards in hand. So that could mean that if you have a wrong lever in hand, that you want to play the wrong lever, return a character off the board to the opponent's hand first, and then if they hit a Sudden Chill or an Undermine when you do the Robin Hood, then you'll have something to discard and trigger with the Prince John. There's other times where your opponent may have one card in hand and they have a really good character on board, like say a half shark, something that you really want to get rid of, and you have you don't talk about Bruno in hand. You can Bruno the shark, and then if they have a couple different cards in hand, then there's a chance that when you bounce the shark back, the shark is not the card that's being discarded. So sometimes it makes sense to do a discard action first before the Bruno, and there's a lot of different complicated ways that things can shake out here. You might also be faced with situations where you have a Dragonfire in hand and they have a couple of different priority targets. They may have a genie and then another character on board, and you're tempted to do the dragon fire on the genie because it quests for more than something else. There's a chance that when you quest with Robin Hood, he's going to hit Brawl, and the Brawl would work on the genie, but then it wouldn't work on the other character. So in a situation like that, you'd want to quest with Robin first and find out what removal options you're going to get before you play the one from your hand. So it kind of depends. Also, challenging with your characters is something that generally I would do after you quest with Robin, because the challenging could change a little bit if you hit an Undermine and now you have the ability to give plus strength to one of your characters. If you have a Prince John on the board and you're going to be able to discard with Robin Hood, then sometimes it's worth questing first, having the Prince John trigger happen when they discard, and then you draw a card, and then you can make a more informed decision. Depends on what your outs are for the given situation and what cards are left. Because the cards that you don't use go to your discard, well, they all go to your discard when you quest with Robin, you can easily go through your discard and see what actions you're likely to hit. You can keep track in your mind of the ones that you've inked. You can see the rest of them in your discard, and you can use that to try and make an informed decision about what things Robin Hood is likely to hit based on what's left in your deck for him to hit. Obviously, the We Don't Talk About Bruno is one of the best hits for Robin Hood because it takes a character off the board, causes them to discard, does a lot of good stuff for us. So knowing how many are left is useful. If there's none left, you can't rely on that as an out for the situation you're in. So you want to look at other options that you have and think about that when you're sequencing your turn. So he is a fun card, but he does lead to complex board states and situations. So just keep that in mind when you're playing. The other thing that I guess complicates this too is that you may want to set up a half shark with your 6 ink, but you may be drawing cards with your Prince John at the same time, and then you might draw something that would have been better to play in the situation than the half shark. So you got to kind of weigh out, do you want to play your characters and spend your ink before you quest with Robin or after? And there's no straightforward answer to this, but it's something just to keep in mind, think it through, and it's kind of luck. It's a little bit of gambling because we're really relying on RNG to get the good cards with Robin Hood. Sometimes he will miss, but at 25 actions, he rarely ever misses. It's usually a bit better than the aerial odds because we're running like 25 instead of Steel Song usually runs about 20, so the chances of whiffing are not there as bad, but it can still happen. So you want to factor all of those things into your decision making with the Robin Hood. So that's the deck. I have been playing with it online. It has been doing pretty well. It's a lot of fun. I encourage you to try it out. You can make some tweaks to it. Let me know in the comments what you like about the deck, what you might change, or what's worked for you if you've played with the red-green. I've seen some different lists. Some have the Mulan, some don't have the Mulan, some don't use the half shark. I think that this list seems pretty consistent. It does well into aggro, does well into other matchups, and I think that Robin Hood Sharpshooter stonks are gonna go up when the rotation happens and like Brawl and Sisu leave and maybe he's a little bit harder to remove. I think that there'll be more fun you can do with him. So anyways, thanks for checking out the video. Like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know how it's going for you. Worlds are this weekend. I'm excited to see the gameplay that happens with the Worlds coverage. As always, thanks for checking it out. Cheers.